Nikhil, what are you making of this nomination in? Roger Binny already being seen as, pretty much confirmed. Why has this happened, first of all, Nikhil? Explain to us why this change was deemed necessary.
Well, Shiv, firstly, I mean, this is a very different BCCI to the BCCI that I've covered for close to 2 decades. BCCI elections were always as exciting as, sometime national elections as well, because there was a lot of lobbying that would go on days before the elections came. Then, even before the election started, you wouldn't know that who's the one who's going to be elected. You went into the AGM, and only after hours of negotiation and a lot of voting, you would get to know who's the one who's coming out as a BCCI president. This BCCI has seen a sea change. We saw it last time around, and I think at that time, Sourav Ganguly emerged as the consensus candidate only because, remember, of the turmoil that the BCCI went through right before that. You had the Committee of Administrators, you had the constitution completely revamped, and from there on, I think there was this sort of an understanding within the BCCI that you really need to fix the image of the BCCI. So one of the things that they've done is to ensure that you have a player as the BCCI president. Remember, last time around as well, Sourav Ganguly's name wasn't doing the run. In fact, it was only at the 11th hour that it was decided that it's best to go with someone like a Sourav Ganguly, a former captain who is also heading the Cricket Association of Bengal, as the chief. And I think something similar has happened this time around. As you mentioned, Roger Binny, a man of integrity, he's a cricketer of repute, and all of these things went into deciding that let's Roger Binny be the guy. But you mustn't forget that at the end of the day, it is going to be those 30 votes that decide who's going to be the candidate. And this time, why you're not going to have any elections? Because he's going to be unanimous, because he had the backing of a very powerful group of BCCI that is de facto headed by a former president, N. Srinivasan. He roughly controls about 14 votes, and that's going to be very, very crucial. This last time around, they had agreed on Sourav Ganguly's name, though I know that that camp wasn't very happy with Saurav's name. This time around, the other camp has conceded that, okay, let it be your candidate, and from there on, Roger Binny has emerged as the consensus candidate.
Where did things begin to unravel in your view, Nikhil, as far as Sourav was concerned? I mean, why did it need to happen and come to this point?
A few things that have gone into that, Shiv. Firstly, there was this criticism. Now we remember there was a meeting here in Delhi with a lot of very influential people, a lot of them who are going to be voters in the BCCI election. And at that time, a former BCCI president in N. Srinivasan is said to have criticized the 3 years regime of Sourav Ganguly. There were a few areas that were pointed out. One, it was said that, remember, he is also endorsing a lot of brands that are at the moment rival brands to the BCCI. So, for example, if BCCI has got a set of sponsors, because Sourav Ganguly himself endorses a lot of brands, because of the fact that he's been a former player, some of those are rival brand, and that doesn't go down very well. Then there were conflict of interest charges. There were a few people within the BCCI, as I said, that faction led by N. Srinivasan, that said that, listen, we are not happy with the time that he spent as BCCI president. Also, the other thing that was pointed out, that it's unprecedented. It's very rare do you have in BCCI that one person continues for 2 back-to-back terms, and so since Sourav has done this 1 term, it's best to look for another candidate. I think sometimes there are these sort of compromises that are made, that you go in with one faction for one position and the other faction for the other position, and that's the internal politics that's actually played out here. And that is why they thought that it's best not to go with Sourav Ganguly. However, to please Sourav, there was an offer made that why doesn't he then become the chairman of the IPL? But Sourav at that time is said to have said that no, I've already been BCCI president, I want to continue. Sourav made that very clear. He wanted to continue. But if you're going to make me a head of a subcommittee, that would be a step down from being a BCCI president. He refused that, and that's why that position has gone to Arun Dhumal.